I didn't realize how funny you were. That's
I didn't realize how funny you were.
Whoa, look at that.
Y'all are hilarious.
I was gonna die before they offered me the part. They're like, don't worry, you're gonna die. And I was like, okay, I'll take it.
On set, I think I was a bit intimidated by how large the set was. And for some reason, I was fighting the feeling of thinking I was gonna get fired. And then the last day I felt,
Based on very specific source material. And so that was always a part of the presentation of the idea. Go all in on season 1, shoot for 11 to 12 months in Alberta, and then it would take a totally different shape in the second season, and this is why.
Oh, I had to put like a jacket on and a backpack and a sling a gun over me, and that was actually quite difficult. I actually had quite a hard day trying to get all of my things on and get the gun the right way up. It was a bit of a thing. Anyway, it was really fun. And
If we get to do more together in future seasons, then we're gonna have a problem with laughing
No, I
too.
know. I think it's going
It's
to be a
already a
Pedro
problem.
situation, a Pedge situ, because hello.
Just really intense combat scenes, and carrying not only the bravery and the heroism, but also the fear of, not so much for my own personal well-being, but the fear of loss of the community and the family. And
good feeling.
yeah.
Isabella and me, Dina and Ellie. And that was, day 0, and it was just...
It's a completely different show this season.
I'm in a very unique position because it's my second go at this story.
I do think that
But I've just now lived in this world for so long, and I am just...
Craig gathering everyone up. Majority of them had already done the whole season of this show, so I was a little bit intimidated. He was like, season 2, let's go.
Actually, people were critical of some choices that we've made in the show.
Yeah.
And they were saying like, oh, I like this better in the game, and this was more subtle in the game, whatever they said.
And then we started filming, and then it was all a blur, but it happened really quickly, and we didn't reshoot the scene, so I think it went well.
There's a certain privilege that I feel, and a certain appreciation of like, you know, as an artist, as a writer, as a storyteller, whatever title you want to put on us, you just hope you find some audience.
How far down that road did you get in your mind about playing Ellie in a Last of Us film?
I think it just really felt like a big deal. And what I remember, like the highlights of that time were just going to Naughty Dog, like headquarters, I guess, and walking around with Neil and him showing me how the game is made.
Look how far games have come, that we could have this conversation. It's like you could compare the two, and that the game can sit side by side with an HBO show.
And then I felt really good because that was like my first time acting with Bella. We didn't do any chemistry reads or anything. It was just whatever it was, we were either screwed or okay. And last day.
And I really remember all of those details. And he even showed me at one of our, I think we only really in the grand scheme of things, I think we only had 2 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day, I think for episode 2, I slept maybe 2 hours and
the second meeting, I really remember him showing me parts of The Last of Us 2 when it was early days of getting made, which was pretty crazy. And he told me what happens, which was also crazy. I've been sitting with this secret for so long.
It's basically Neil and you have known this for 12 years.
Engaged all the time. The most challenging days for me actually are the days where I've not got very much to do.
Wait, Joel. He did what he saved me. I'm the one that there's no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Just let him go. I let you both live. And you wasted it.
I think the drama behind the scenes of The Last of Us is more intense than the show itself. The rumor that Bella Ramsey lost it after Kaitlyn Dever allegedly exposed how Bella stole the role of Ellie from her has fans buzzing. Dever was originally eyed for Ellie in the scrapped 2014 film adaptation and now shows up in the series as Abby. So with Ramsey still front and center as Ellie, the set is reportedly a pressure cooker. And honestly, That off-camera tension only spotlights why the on-screen product went off the rails. Look, I called it one of the worst, and you'd imagine that half a decade of fan outrage, alternate theories, and countless breakdown videos would have pushed Neil Druckmann to switch things up this time. But no, there it is. Practically beat for beat, identical to the game, landing at the precise moment in the storyline. And unsurprisingly, it landed just as badly today as it did 5 years back, axing the season 1 lead in such a senseless, savage fashion not only left viewers with a bitter aftertaste, it tore a huge hole in the series that no other character could hope to plug. The bond between Joel and Ellie was the pulsing core of the game and the adaptation alike. Remove that, and the last of us shed the crucial spark that kept audiences invested. It's humanity. Let's be honest, Pedro Pascal was hands down the standout element of The Last of Us. Sure, you could say he's everywhere these days and maybe a tad overrated, and I'm still not totally sold that he was the ideal pick, but I cannot deny the man can facing act. Pascal injected sorely needed weight, credibility, and presence into the series. Once he was removed, the burden of holding the show together fell squarely on problem number 2, which leads us nicely to Ellie. Some hard facts we all must face, friends. You only realize real happiness after it disappears, and casting Bella Ramsey as Ellie was the wrong thing move. Look, I'm not here to trash her looks or slam her as a human being. That would be petty and cruel. She's an actor earning a paycheck, and honestly, she seems genuinely friendly and grounded whenever she's interviewed. Yet the cold truth is that not every performer fits every part. You either physically match the character, or failing that, nail the character's spirit. Plainly, Ramsey bears zero resemblance to Ellie, so scratch that first criterion. Worse, she lacks the dramatic range to inhabit Ellie's soul. Her acting swings from wooden enough to craft a log cabin to so hammy it turns Nick Cage into Anthony Hopkins by comparison. None of it rings true. She's comical when aiming for menace, grating when attempting charm, and oddly detached whenever she should be soft and exposed. As much as the game irritates me, I can't deny Ashley Johnson nailed Ellie. Stack their signature moments side by side, and the yawning talent gap between Johnson and Ramsey is impossible to miss. It's a deadly mix that completely murders any emotional stake you have in Ellie. Adding insult, the writers have reshaped her into someone unrecognizable. Game Ellie spent most of part 2 shattered, eaten up by vengeance, visibly deteriorating mentally and physically. Sure, it was bleak, but it made narrative sense and dovetailed perfectly with the message that revenge wipes out everyone. TV Ellie, however, is a whole other story. You can almost taste the writer's self-doubt as they strain to paint her as badass and unbreakable, traits that once coexisted with openness and trust. Now she merely feels spiky, conceited, and combative instead of genuinely strong. Her dynamic with Dina shifted from a fragile, edge-of-breaking bond to a blissful high school romance where they're trading jokes, grinning, giggling, and shagging like nothing outside matters. They barely bicker or drift apart. They view virtually everything identically. They're so maddeningly in sync that you start questioning Dina's very purpose. It's purifying nonsense, leaving you with the awful, nagging suspicion that Joel's death barely registered with Ellie. Now onto the next problem, which is the tempo. Season 2's pacing is downright dreadful. In the games, pacing mattered less since players steered things and cutscenes popped up just to nudge the plot. On TV, that's all we get, and it quickly dawns on you that there's barely any story worth telling. Consequently, large swaths of the season are little more than time-filling busy work. How often must we sit through Ellie and Dina trudging through woods or empty streets, trading crap jokes and hollow chatter that reveals nothing about them, propels no plot, and enriches no world building? How many dull, sexy scenes did they wedge in that clash totally with the reality of 2 survivors who could die any second? Yeah, nothing sets the mood quite like being soaked, shivering, and flanked by fungal zombies. There were entire episodes where absolutely nothing meaningful occurs, and I was bored stiff. The whole thing reeks of squandered potential. It's classic self-indulgent hubris from the showrunners, convinced they're crafting such artistic brilliance that viewers will bask in every drawn-out moment. It's a series about mushroom. Zombies, pal. Get a thing grip. Then we have the obvious 4th problem, the script. Every character in this show is a blazing thing moron. From Ellie and Dinah leisurely biking down a city street that might be teeming with hostiles, to the WLF brass who choose to set up shop in a spore-ridden hospital, to Joel's steadfast refusal to defend himself or clarify his history. to Abby sauntering off and sparing someone obviously destined to chase her down for revenge. No one's behavior makes a lick of fing sense. It all exists purely to keep the plot limping along. That's without even touching the dialogue. So, cringeworthy and AI might balk at printing it. Now for the messaging. Yeah, you saw this one coming, and with damn good reason. The game already had a reputation for shoving the current thing agenda down your throat. The series ramps it up to such absurd heights, it becomes a parody. The tired 100-pound actress flooring burly stuntman shtick has been recycled so often I'd grown numb to it. But then, along comes the bonkers image of Bella Ramsey, who often resembles a kid, physically overpowering a guy twice her size. And strength. What are you thinking? Who the hell do you expect to swallow this? Seriously, did no fight coordinator raise a hand and say, this doesn't fly? Viewers won't buy it. But the girl boss nonsense doesn't stop there, folks. Not even close. I can practically promise you that nearly every leadership role in this series belongs to a woman, with every squad somehow 50% female. Because, of course, sending women of childbearing age into frontline combat is clearly genius when humanity is dangling over the extinction cliff. I'm not joking. At one stage, a heavily pregnant woman is let loose in hostile territory, as if she won't be a massive liability to herself and her team. Son of a bee. What the actual feast is wrong with you? I mean, do you honestly think any sane person buys this nonsense for even a second? The uncomfortable reality is that if The Last of Us were real, women wouldn't go anywhere near combat or danger at all, because society couldn't afford to lose them. They wouldn't be on patrols, they wouldn't serve in fighting units, and they almost certainly wouldn't occupy frontline command posts. They'd be back home, bearing children and keeping the rear areas functioning, while men took the risks and made the bulk of the tough calls. Is that glamorous? Nope. Does it align with modern progressive talking points? Also nope. But funny thing, those ideals vanish fast once bodies start dropping and the cushy perks of civilization evaporate. You'd be shocked how swiftly the girl boss dream collapses when folks must shoulder real danger and stake their lives. Conversely, the male cast tends to be painted as corrupt, bigoted, or spineless at worst, and at best, politely progressive pushovers. They gleefully soak, up jabs, and bow to their supposed superiors. Because once again, that's how fellows like Neil Druckmann, safe in their cozy 21st century progressive bubble, picture reality. For a series so hungry for gravitas, it's amazing how heavily The Last of Us leans on tropes that went stale and ridiculous 5 years back. It sprang from shaky source material, then morphed into a preachy, self-absorbed mess under a creator whose activism outweighed his storytelling, repeating the game's blunders yet somehow expecting a new outcome. Season 2 of The Last of Us truly was a disaster everyone saw coming. They knew the cliff was ahead. They had every chance to steer away and improve. Instead, they powered forward, too arrogant to heed warnings, too fanatical to adapt. Well, you absolutely got what you earned. The Last of Us earned every bit of the flop it engineered. I'm just fucking relieved I won't have to endure any more of it, at least not for a couple of years. In the end, the off-screen fireworks and on-screen misfires are two sides of the same scorched coin, a production fueled by ego and denial. Can only spin so far before it topples, and The Last of Us finally face-planted for everyone to see. Bella's rumored blow-ups, Kaitlyn's supposed receipts, Druckmann's stubborn play-by-play, each rumor just reinforces what our eyes already told us. The heart of this story flatlined the moment it stopped listening to its own pulse. So where does that leave us? A series that burned through goodwill faster than clickers rip through patrols, a fandom splintered between rage and resignation, and a powerhouse IP now limping toward an uncertain future. Maybe the creatives will course correct. Maybe they'll double down on the same hollow spectacle. Either way, the damage is done. Until they rediscover genuine human stakes on camera and off, The Last of Us will keep proving its harshest critics right. And honestly, after this season's mess, that's a fate they earned.